Hello, hello. This is week 4 of the Be Your Own Coach challenge. This is the fourth check-in for this challenge. And I am Deanne, Life Coach Day, a professional certified life coach through the International Coaching Federation, through the Life Coach School. I'm a positive psychology coach, and I focus on helping my clients get the results that they want in their life by developing the mindset that they need to get those results. And one of the things that I do is I help them learn to coach themselves, be their own coach, which is one of the reasons why I'm having this challenge today. So this is a 100-day challenge. We are currently on day 28 of the challenge. And so I provide self-coaching prompts that are emailed out daily. And they give you the opportunity to kind of really dig deep, figure out what's going on with you, what's causing you to have the success you're having, or what's keeping you from having the success that you want to have, so that you can identify ways to move forward so that you're not just stuck in the same spot. You can actually be able to move. And so we have these weekly check-ins. This is the fourth one. And so I just wanted to spend this um, check-in kind of reflecting on some of the questions from last week and how they impacted us. And then also doing an evaluation because this is day 28. So we're almost right at 30 days. And so just uh, teaching you how to do or showing you how to do a self-evaluation so that you can figure out what's working well, what isn't working, what needs to be changed, so you can figure out the best way for you to move forward and actually make progress towards these goals. And so, speaking of goals, I'm going to go ahead and share my goal. So, my goal is I want to get 5 workouts in each week, and I want to cut back on sugar because I am diabetic. And so, my goal is to get like a certain blood sugar level number, which is between 100 and 120 every morning. So my goal is to get that number every morning. And the way that I have to do that is by reducing the amount of sugar that I take and then increasing my physical activity. So those are my goals. And I'd love to hear your goals. If you could put them in the comments, that would be lovely. Also, let me know how you're doing on the goals. Like, how are you progressing on your goals? So for me, I if I had to rate myself, I'd give myself maybe a 6. And the reason I said a 6 out of 10, the reason I say that is because I am still struggling with my sugar intake. As far as physical activity, for the two, past 3 weeks, I've done my 5 workouts. But this past week, the week that we're currently in, I've only done 3. So if I do one today, then that will give me 4. So I am planning to go for a walk after this. So I'll have 4, but I am struggling with the whole sugar piece, right? So I'm going to talk a little bit about my struggles today and kind of what I was able to realize through doing these self-coaching prompts. And I'm curious, what have you been able to realize? What awareness have you had around your goals? So I love for you to put those in the comments, or you can take time to email me. Just respond to one of the emails that I've sent out with the self-coaching prompts. My email address is coachingdaydreams@gmail.com. So I would love to hear how you are doing. So first, I want to take a minute to kind of take a look at the prompts that we had for this week. And I have the Monday through Friday prompts up so that we can take a look at those. Mondays was, what small actions have you consistently taken that are moving you closer to your goal? right? So that's just taking a look at like what's working. And then what's one more step you can take this week to accelerate that progress, to take that progress to another level. That was Monday's question. Tuesday's question is one that kind of really got me thinking. So Tuesday's question was, what's something that you recently learned about yourself during this challenge? And I would like to share something that I learned. I don't know if I wouldn't say I learned this for the first time, but I'm realizing how much self-sabotage I have going on. Like I self-sabotage way more than what I initially realized. And the only reason that I realized it is because I took time to answer this question. So one thing that I've learned is that I self-sabotage. Another thing that I've learned is that I allow my primitive brain to lead me way more than I should. And so when I say primitive brain, what I'm talking about is like we have different parts or different sections going on in our brain. And so the main two that we are probably most familiar with is our primitive brain and our prefrontal cortex. And those are the two parts that kind of feel like they're battling, like going at it. So, for instance, the primitive brain is the part of your brain that seeks pleasure. It just wants instant pleasure, instant gratification. It's not considering at all what the consequences may be. It just wants that pleasure. It also tries to avoid pain, right? And not just physical pain, but like the pain of discomfort, like being in discomfort. So if you have a goal and you have to leave your comfort zone to try to achieve that goal, your primitive brain is going to try to keep you in the comfort zone because it doesn't want to experience, it doesn't want you to have to experience discomfort or fear or like worries that you might have as you're trying to work towards your goal. It wants to keep you safe and keep you in your comfort zone. But if you think about that, that's holding you back, right? So our primitive brain is the one that tries to keep us locked in, and it likes to be efficient. It likes to um, be good at what it does, whether what it's good at is good for you or not. So like for me, I'm good at procrastination. And I'm good at like overeating sugar, right? I'm also good at coaching. And I'm also good at I have really good work ethic, right? So it can be a good thing, but it can also be a bad thing and keep us in bad habits. Like if you're good at like smoking cigarettes every time you get stressed out, right? It's going to keep that habit and it's going to be efficient at it, right? But if you struggle with trying to find a healthier way of dealing with your stress and you're not good at that yet, your primitive brain is going to be kind of resistant in that because it's not good at it, but it is good at going to those cigarettes or those unhealthy vices, right? So it's going to keep you wanting to do that because you're good at that, you're efficient at that, right? So when it's time to learn something new, it's more resistant. That's the primitive brain. And so what I initially said, the reason I brought that up is because I allow my primitive brain to lead me more than I would actually like it to, right? And that is not always a good thing. The other part of our brain is the prefrontal cortex, which I mentioned. That is more of the part of your brain that likes to plan things out, that considers all the consequences, that looks at all the facts, that wants to make the best decision possible for the situation that it's in, that wants to make the healthy choices, the part of the brain that does not need instant gratification, but is willing to put in the work day after day after day until you actually get that reward, right? So that is the difference. So a lot of times we feel the two parts of our brain going back and forth at it. It's like we want to make the good decision. Like for me, I want to stop eating the sugar. I know that it's good for me to if I reduce the sugar. I know that it's good for me if I work out, but my my primitive brain is like, if I see something that I want, that I like, it wants it now. It doesn't even consider the consequences. So I tend to allow that part of my brain to lead me more often than I should, or than I would actually like to. So that's what I mean by that. Um, and that's something that I realized from answering this question, because I really sat and thought about it. And I'm like, wow, like I'm really allowing my primitive brain to lead me way more than what I like. So that's something that I learned about myself. The second part of that question is like, how has this new awareness helped you more move forward? Or what adjustments can you make based on like your findings? And so I feel like I need to, now that I'm more aware that I allow my primitive brain to take the lead in making decisions, um, I need to use my prefrontal cortex. So I'm gonna call the primitive brain is kind of like my baby brain, right? Because it's not as mature, it doesn't understand quite all the consequences, kind of doesn't even care. So I'm gonna call it my baby brain is my primitive brain, and my prefrontal cortex is going to be like the mature brain because it considers consequences, wants to make really good decisions, likes to plan ahead. So my baby brain and my mature brain. So I think what I need to do now that I'm aware that my primitive brain is, I'm allowing it to lead more. I feel like I need to have I want my mature brain to kind of be more of a guide for my primitive brain and not just allowing it or giving into it, making all the right decisions, kind of like trying to guide it, lead it, take the lead, be more of a leader, and not just let the baby brain get away with everything, because that's not good for me, right? So I'm gonna make sure that my mature brain is like more in control, is speaking up more. It's not just giving in. And I can do that by just kind of thinking through decisions before I actually make them or actually act on them, and maybe doing some self-coaching, like answering a coaching prompt, um, being more aware of that, like if I allow the baby brain to have its way, it's like I'm giving in to the temptation and I'm not considering the consequence, and just remembering why this is my goal in the first place. So as I'm working toward a goal and making decisions, why this is my goal in the first place, and just trying to um, make the best decisions and just not give in, right? Um, and then I said that I also self-sabotage way more than I realize. I I think that has to do a lot with my primitive brain taking the lead, because usually the decisions that the baby brain or the primitive brain would want to make, or the actions that it takes, are actions that go against what my goals are. They don't align with my goals, and that is where the self-sabotage comes in. So I feel like if I take more time and try to um, have my mature brain, my prefrontal cortex take the lead more often, then that will reduce the self-sabotage. Yeah. So the Tuesday question is one that was really like helpful for me. Wednesday's question was, what triggers have caused you to feel stuck or have demotivated you during this challenge? And then also, how can you prepare yourself to respond differently the next time that you encounter these triggers? And so for me, my trigger is, so I spend a lot of time at my mom's house, and she has what I call a candy store. It's like there's an area in the kitchen that has all kinds of sugary snacks. I'm talking about chips and Snickers and M&Ms and Nutter Butters and honey buns and all the things, right? And so just when I see those, right, it's just so tempting to me to want to get a snack. And then I have a thought, I can just start later. I can start tomorrow. I still have 72 days in this challenge. Like I can get it right later. And so having seeing the snacks is like a trigger because it makes me start to desire the sugar that I'm trying to avoid. And then having thoughts, oh, I can just start later. I still got 72 days left. Kind of like it's like I'm trying to convince myself that it would be okay to have um to have the snacks. And then sometimes a trigger is like looking back at my progress and actually feeling disappointed in the progress that I'm making is kind of like triggering for me. And it makes me think, oh, I'll just give up. I'll just start later. And then focusing more on my mistakes that I've made instead of like the accomplishment. So I tend to, like I said, I have been working out 5 times a week. So I'm hitting that goal, but I'm struggling with the sugar. But my brain wants to focus on how I'm struggling with eating all this sugar instead of the fact that I've been working out 5 times a week, right? And so that is a trigger for me, like just thinking of the mistakes. And it's like, oh, well, I might as well just go ahead and give in, right? So the second part of the question is how can you prepare yourself to respond differently the next time you encounter those triggers, right? So one thing that I can prepare myself for is like using a sticker chart or having like visuals of my progress or my success is very helpful. And I have one that I'm using, but I recently got a new one. New calendars, very colorful, very cute, blinged out stickers that I could use. So setting that up and starting to use that and trying to earn different stickers um for like maybe I'll give myself a sticker for each day that I go with only eating what I planned or only having planned sugar, right? Or even having no sugar. Or, and then giving myself like a little sticker or reward when I work out that day, right? So that I can track the number of days that I ate on protocol or that I was able to work out. And so that I'm seeing my progress visually and then I enjoy doing things like that. So like enjoying the fact that I get to give myself a sticker and then visually seeing like, oh man, the past 3 days I did great. I'm gonna do good today too. It'll give me the extra motivation to try to move on. And then there is something called an urge jar that I learned from one of my mentors. The urge jar is like every time you resist an urge, which for me it would be resist the urge to eat the sugar or unplanned sugar or unhealthy sugar. So whenever I resist an urge, I get to put a little bead or in the jar, right? So then over time, it's like I can see how many times I did not give into temptation and I did not allow myself to like eat the sugar. Do you see what I'm saying? So an urge jar is a way of tracking all the times you didn't give into the temptation. And that's like another visual. Because for me, I respond well when I have something visual that I can see. So I feel like if I have the trigger of like seeing all the snacks on the table, and then I get the urge to eat something off of the table, and I don't, then I get to give myself a bead. And then also at the end of the day, if I didn't eat any, then I get to give myself a sticker. So I think that could be helpful. It's also helpful to me when I listen to um like podcasts or am reading books about like that kind of align with my goal and it's kind of educating me on my goal and why what I'm doing is so important and different tricks and different hacks and stuff to do that. So I think listening to that. Another thing that I realize that I'm not doing is I have not been praying. I pray for um I pray for all the things that I would like to have, and I pray to give thanks, and I pray for other people. But one thing I noticed, like this question helped me realize, is I am not praying for support with like actually achieving this goal. So that's one thing that I feel like, and I feel like prayer, I feel like God can help me to resist the temptation or to remove the desire from me so that way it's no longer an issue. So that's something that I'm going to start doing as well. So that's just a little bit about how like the question from Wednesday has helped me realize some things that I can do differently. And okay, so Thursday is like, what's one bold action you've been hesitant to take, and how would taking this step impact your progress? All right, so this one, I kind of am afraid to even share this, but there's been, because I don't know if I want to do it, but a bold action I feel like I've been hesitant to take is to like document or share or post my progress. So I come into these check-ins and I share my progress with you guys, because I feel like we're all in this together. We're all working on something, but I haven't posted my progress on social media at all. And um, so I think that sharing my progress on social media is something that I might want to consider doing because one, I think it will help to hold me accountable. And also it will um it might motivate people. And I think I will do better if I know like everyone's watching. So I feel like it'll help hold me accountable in a way that is going to make me feel a little bit uncomfortable. But as I said before, it is important to leave the comfort zone and to not stay stuck in it. And um, yeah, I think I might just do it. I think I might just start sharing maybe on my Facebook page. I may create a group to share in as well, but I think that's something that I've been hesitant to do because I've been thinking about it a lot, but I haven't done it yet. So that is something I'm not saying I'm gonna do it, but I feel like I should. I feel like I should do it. So I might do it. And then the last question we had was the Friday question. It said, think of a recent setback you experienced and what did you learn from it? And how can you apply the lesson to move forward from with more confidence? So that was another question. Let me see. I don't know. I think I'm going to skip on sharing that one. I see that someone has joined me. And so I was just reflecting on all of the questions from the week, Monday through Friday, and just kind of talking about different questions, the questions that kind of really maybe had an impact on me for the week. And so I'm just curious to know, is there a question from this week that kind of stood out to you? Um, Maybe had an impact on you?
Good morning.
Good morning. Is this Joya?
Yes, it is.
Hey, Joya girl.
Hey. Um, one of the questions that I feel like um, was probably a really good one for me this week was Tuesday's question. Like, what's something that I learned about myself?
Mm-hmm.
And I actually wrote, like, even though, I'm okay with being vulnerable, I realize when it comes to getting deeper with vulnerability, that's what kind of scares and shies me away. Like when it comes to things that are sensitive topics, still, I'm like,
Mhm.
I don't know if I could be open about this yet. But when it's things that I'm like, okay, I kind of got through it already, it's like, okay, I can share about that. And so that's one thing I learned about myself recently. It's like, if I'm still like trying to get through something, I'm not really that open and talking about it. And that's something that I have to get over and get through, especially with, like my blog and stuff,
Mhm.
because my goal is to share about my experiences. So speaking while I'm going through something is okay. So that's something I learned about myself. And that's something that has been, shying me away from sharing. Because I think I've written one blog post this entire month, but I've had so many ideas. Like I have drafts, thousands of drafts.
Mhm.
So that's one thing I learned about myself. I'm like, it's the fear because every time I get good in the draft, I'm like, oh, you know what? I literally realized I started distracting myself. I find things to distract myself with. So that's one of the things I learned about myself this week, and I've definitely redirected it. So I'm like, okay, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It feels good to be self-aware.
Yes, it does. Because then once you become aware, now you have the power to decide how you want to move forward or what change, if any, that you need to make.
Hmm.
Yeah. It's so interesting that you say that because what I was responding to Thursday's question, what's one bold action you've hesitated to take? When you came in, I was answering that question. And it was like, I've hesitated to share my journey, like of, trying to decrease my blood sugar levels by reducing sugar and working out. I've been hesitant to share that on social media because like you said, I'm going through it right now, and it kind of feels uncomfortable to share for me right now. But I
Yeah.
think that if I did share, one, it would hold me more accountable, and it might also inspire other people. And it's okay. Like if I share and I'm messing up, or I share and it's just a hard day, to be vulnerable, it's okay. That's usually what people can relate to, but it's just uncomfortable. So it's
Hmm.
just interesting that you said that. Like that's literally the same thing that I was thinking about. But it helped me in Thursday's question. It helped you in Tuesday's question. Mhm.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. Okay. So the next thing that I was thinking we could do is kind of do a little reflection on um the week, like in general. We can answer the question, what did you learn about yourself this week, which we kind of talked about, but if there's something more that you've learned, or what do you need to change in order for you to make even more progress. So what changes do you need to make even more progress than what you're already making, and what um have you learned about yourself? So we could take a couple minutes and answer those questions, and then we can come back and share, or if you're not wanting to share, that's fine, but it's just good for you to have that information. And for those of you watching the replay, I encourage you to answer these questions as well, because when you take time to answer these prompts, it's like you're tapping into yourself, your awareness. You're able to solve problems, or realize problems, or realize progress that maybe you hadn't before. So it's always good to take time to just kind of reflect and answer questions. So I'm going to give us like maybe 5 minutes, and to answer, either you can answer both, or you could pick one, or you could just reflect in whatever way you want to reflect. And then we'll check in after about 5 minutes. Okay, that was our 5 minutes. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and share. I answered both of the questions. I think I spent more time on the first one than the second one. The second one, I kind of felt like a little bit like I ran out of time. But some of the things that I feel like I learned are things that I probably just shared a little bit of is one of the realizations that I had is that I am self-sabotaging way more than I even realized. Like I knew that I self-sabotage sometimes, but I just realized it a lot by answering one of the questions from last week. I don't know which one it was, but I self-sabotage more than I thought. And then I tend to have like all or nothing thinking a lot more than I realize because sometimes I'll eat some sugar, right? And then it's like instead of saying, okay, I had some sugar today, I had a little bit of sugar today. It's like since I ate sugar today, it's like, well, today's ruined. I might as well just spend the rest of the day eating even more sugar. Like it's like all or nothing. It's like I get it 100% right, or I just messed it 100% up all the way. So I have a lot of all or nothing thinking. That I didn't really realize that I had. I mean, my behaviors show me that I had that thinking, but I don't think I actually realize it. Another thing I realized, which I feel really good about, is that I don't give up. It's like I'll mess up or I'll quit, but I always will start again. I'll always will keep trying. It's like I don't give up, right? And so I really appreciate that about me because I feel like a lot of times people who try something over and over and over again and don't get it right will just stop trying. But I'm not like that. I'll just keep trying. I'll just keep starting over and over again. So I think that that is something that I feel really good about. And then another thing that I learned that I realized this week is I am not praying about for support to with achieving this goal. Like I'll pray about everything else, but for some reason, I haven't been praying to ask for support with this goal. And so the things that I want to change is I definitely want to start changing my prayers to include like help it like to overcome the temptation that I have to overeat sugar, like, and to include God more in my journey and to allow and request his support and not try to do this by myself. So that's definitely one thing that I want to change. I want to be comfortable being more vulnerable. And then I also want to focus on instead like I need to do what I always am teaching my coaching clients to do is to focus on changing your mindset, right? To
Hmm.
help you get the results that you want instead of just focusing only on the actions that I'm taking. I need to focus on how I'm thinking, the perspective that I'm having, things like that, so that I can start make taking better actions that align with my goals instead of only thinking about my actions. I need to also include my mindset. So those are things that I feel like I want to work on changing. Okay. How about you? Do you want to share anything?
Um, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So one thing that I learned about myself this week is that being disciplined and intentional takes you a very long way. But it also lets me know that I am literally capable of doing a lot of things. Like, so that basically I learned that my procrastination really is just my anxiety. And because I am learning how to work through that, it's like, girl, you've really like I've just grown so much in so many different ways. It's just like that's the one thing I noticed about myself every day last week. It was always something different. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm so proud of me. And that's also another thing. I've really adopted speaking kindly to and about myself to myself. Like, because sometimes, like you said, like that all and nothing. I used to have that really bad. Sometimes I still do. And my mom is always like, Joya, everything's not gloom and doom. And I'm like, well, what is it? But, I'm learning that there is a gray area to some things and it isn't always the end of the world. So because I've learned that, I've gotten better with just practicing kindness with myself. And I really appreciate that because as somebody who used to be a real bad self abuser, it's beautiful seeing how far I've come. Um, I'm also still very shy in some areas, but I also learned that I am an extrovert more than I'm an introvert. Which is so funny because my whole life I thought that I was an introvert, but I realized that no. If as long as I'm confident in myself, which is something that has also been growing because I've been disciplined and stuff like that, like I've learned that that's also helping my confidence grow more. But the more my confidence grows and the more I'm okay with like being me and accepting of myself, I realize like I have no problem with letting the world see who I am, but only in certain aspects. Still shy. So that's one thing that I also realize is that I still need to, like change in order for me to have some progress. Like I need to learn how to lean into that discomfort that comes from being my authentic self in some areas, like the parts of me that I'm not used to sharing. And I think it comes from like I feel like being the oldest child kind of plays a part in like just the I don't want to call it secrecy, but kind of secrecy, like just the just moving so just like in a discreetly, moving so discreetly. I feel like that comes from being the oldest and just having a lot of responsibilities growing up. So one thing I'm learning is like it's okay to share. So I have to just change my uncomfortableness with sharing certain things and just lean more into that. And I feel like the more I, work on my confidence, the more it's easier to lean into. So
Mhm.
yeah, that's the things I learned and things I need to change.
Yeah, good. That's really good. I'm glad you're having this awareness and I'm glad you're having so much progress. That's exciting because every time we meet, it's like more progress, and that's what it's all about. And then sometimes there'll be some slip ups, but that's okay.
Hmm.
So
But I'm
thank you.
reminding myself one day at a time.
Yes, one day at a time. Okay, and so the next thing that I thought it would be good for us to do would be a self-evaluation, which allows us to take a look at what has worked. Like, so we have this goal that we're trying to work toward. What is working? What is it that you're doing that is actually working? what are some things that you notice that you've done and those things don't work, and maybe we need to stop doing those, or maybe we don't even know yet. Maybe we need to take time and identify like what isn't working. We've already answered the question, what have we learned? But if there's something else that pops up while you're thinking through this evaluation, you can jot that down. And then how is it that you want to move forward? So, and this is an evaluation that can be used for anything. Like if you, okay, like for instance, your one of your goals is to like be more active in your community and do more blog posts. Well, you
Hmm.
can spend a week of being active in the community, and you can at the end of the week you can take a look back and be like, okay, what worked? What didn't work? What have I learned about what have I learned from maybe my followers, or like from like what do they want, what have I learned from myself, and then based off of what worked and what didn't work and what I've learned, how is it that I want to move forward? And for me it can work when I reflect on my weeks, or when I reflect on my meals, or when I reflect on my blood sugar numbers. What is it that worked? What got the numbers down? What didn't work? What got them up? What is something I've learned, whether it's about myself or some new knowledge that I've learned? And then based off of all of that, how is it that I want to move forward? So after anything we do, we can always give ourselves a self evaluation. And these are going to help us continue to get to the next level every single time, because you're always learning, evaluating, changing, moving forward. Learn, evaluate, change, and moving forward. So I thought that it would be good for us to maybe take another 5 minutes and just uh, think of like from day one of the challenge to now, what is working, what's not working. If you learn something else other than what we've already talked about, you can jot that down too. And then how do you want to move forward? Because we're almost at day 30, right? So we're 30 days in, sort of. We got 70 more days to go, really 72. So how do we want to move forward in this journey so that we're kind of leveling up and accomplishing even more? So I'll give us another 5 minutes to think through those questions, and then we can share out before we log out. Okay, so that was our 5 minutes. And I'm gonna start by asking, well, I'm gonna share how I want to move forward, instead of going into what worked, what didn't work, just in case you want to share all of your stuff, then that'll give you enough time to do a share out. But for me, the way that I want to move forward is I want to start praying more throughout the day for, um, you know, to keep God involved in a part of this journey and receive his guidance, as I do in other areas. So I feel like I want to include him more in my goal journey, the way I do in other areas. I also want to, instead of saying I don't want to eat any sugar, I want to start having maybe planned sugary treats, like not randomly, but just like today I can have one thing, or just allowing myself something, because when I went, like I've been taking an all or nothing approach. And so
Hmm.
just kind of allowing for a treat. So that way, when I have a treat, I don't feel like, oh, I just messed up. No, I'm supposed to have a treat. And so so I want to include that. I want to keep meal planning. I want to keep doing simple workouts and keep with my workout buddy. And then I think I want to also post more about my journey. I don't know that I'll post every single moment, but I think I'll post more and put myself out there more. And I feel like that will maybe inspire others, or it'll give other people the opportunity to inspire me. So that's how I plan to move forward. Do you want to, you can share whatever. You can share what worked, what didn't work, how you want to move forward. You can pick what you want to share if you'd like to.
Um, well, another thing that I feel like I've learned about myself, because last week I spent a lot of time doing a little more like just self-discovery. Like, in addition to, just doing like this journey. I'm also like on a spiritual journey where I want to learn more about myself as I get closer to my 30s so I can understand, like just fully be who I am and who God intends for me to be. And so another thing that I've learned is sometimes I have seasons where I'm literally supposed to just like not initiate, but just respond and just take, like steps back and appreciate the self development. And I feel like this was a month of self development for me. So that's probably why I didn't do as much blogging. Um, so like that is something I learned. That's another thing that I learned that I kind of just realized. And I was like,
Yeah,
okay. And moving forward, I feel like I just want to get more in that energy of like understanding which things are sent for me to respond and which things are meant for me to initiate. Because I feel like that makes things feel a little like more at ease in a sense. So that's another thing that I want to do moving forward. Also, I I just want to become more comfortable because like I'm open with my Facebook group. So now I want to get back to the Instagram page. And I feel like now that I've seen what's working with my Facebook group, I could apply it to the Instagram page. And so that's something I want to do like moving forward. Just finish expanding how active the community actually is. Like even if it's not blogging, it's like, okay, girl, we'll get back to the Instagram and stuff like that. So
yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
those are
Those are excellent things. I'm excited to see where the two of us are at the 100 days. Because I feel
yeah,
like we're both making good progress. Like I'm high progress in one area, a little bit lower in the other, but it's still progress. And you've been making a lot of progress too. And it's only been 28 days. So we got 72 more to go. So I'm super excited to see like where
right.
we go end up. Because all we're gonna do is keep growing and getting better as the time passes.
Yeah, as as I was grabbing my journal, I was looking and I'm like, oh, this is week 4. Like, girl, because I'm
I
just
know.
remembering I was just talking about the 21 days. I'm like, look at you. They made it through another one. And I
Yeah.
did notice something too, is when you're trying to develop a habit and once you make it to the 21 days, it's like sometimes your body will be like, so do we want to keep this going or do we want to break it?
Hmm.
And that was a challenge for me this week because I had to keep reminding myself, no, Joy, you stick to what you've been doing. You've been doing good. That's what's been working. So I learned that too. Like you have to be kind to yourself a lot during journeys. You just have to really just be really kind and patient with yourself a lot.
And pay attention. And I feel like these
Hmm.
questions that we answer, it helps us to pay attention to us and figure
Yeah,
out how we want to move forward. Yep.
literally.
Okay. So, how are you feeling after today's session?
After today's session, I am feeling very at peace. Like I feel very accomplished. Like after making it through this week, and this, I feel like this has been a week of me seeing, like reaping what I've been sowing. Like me finally seeing all of my tears starting to sprout. So
Hmm.
after this check-in, I feel really good because it's like another thing that I love about these weekly check-ins is it allows me to go back through the week and just see how did things go. Because like
Hmm.
even with the prompts, like sometimes when we going over them, I'll go back and look and I'll be like, oh, I could have wrote something else with this too. Like I think about something else, like I could have added this, I could have added that. And so it just feels good seeing the growth weekly, daily, hourly. So
I'm glad you're feeling that way. I'm feeling hopeful. And I feel like I'm being more strategic in the areas that, like, the areas where I'm not making as much progress as I want. I feel good. I feel like optimistic and proud because I'm not giving up. Instead of giving up, I'm trying to be more strategic and find more approaches so that I can make this work. So I feel proud about that. And then I feel strategic and just optimistic that it's going to all come together. So that's how I'm feeling. So
Yes, I like that.
as always, I want to thank you for joining me. Um, the the next time we'll meet will be next Saturday, which is, oh, we'll be in October. It's going to be October 5th. So I just want to encourage you to use all of this, apply the different insights, the different, things that you become more aware of, things that you've learned about yourself, apply it into the coming week. And then I look forward to connecting with you next week.
Yes, I look forward to that.
All right. Well, I'll see you next week. Enjoy your weekend.
Thank you. You too.
Okay. Bye bye.